U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says he's concerned about reports of Russia's military buildup in Syria. Kerry made the remarks in a telephone call with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov. The U.S. State Department says that Kerry told Lavrov that the reported military buildup could further escalate the conflict and risk confrontation with the so-called anti-ISIL coalition operating in Syria. The coalition is supported by the U.S. and its regional allies. U.S. media reports say Russia has sent a military team to Syria and is preparing to expand its support for Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Joining us now from Bristol is investigative journalist Tony Gosling. Mr. Gosling, give us your thoughts on the news that we just had. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says that he is quite concerned about Russia's military buildup in Syria.
Well, I mean, what John Kerry has actually said, isn't it, is he's worried that the Russians in Syria giving him a hand is going to increase the flow of refugees. I think many people in Europe will have to pinch themselves. Can you imagine that flow of refugees actually increasing at all? We've had a massive increase in it under John Kerry's stewardship. Look, this is a litmus test, the possibility that Russia might help destroy ISIS in Syria. And is Kerry really serious about destroying ISIS? We shall see. A year on from the magic spell that transformed the good Free Syrian Army into the bad ISIS, that's the US intervention. ISIS has only been getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and more recently a massive influx of refugees into the refugee camps in places like Lebanon, all over the place, but particularly now here in Europe. So I really think, I mean, there's very few people I think who will believe John Kerry when he says he thinks that will increase the flow of refugees. That's already happened. I mean, the problem is, of course, that the Americans, after a year of fighting ISIS, one of the most powerful military forces in the world, still cannot find ISIS's headquarters. It can't shut down their bank accounts. It can't cut off their ammunition supplies. It can't, it seems, find any of their oil tankers or their drug factories, which are providing the funding for ISIS. So I would have suggested that possibly it's a good idea for them to ask for a bit of help from the Russians. I think personally, if the Russians get stuck in here, we can have ISIS cleared up within a matter of days.
Well, Kerry says that a military buildup could further escalate the conflict and risk confrontation with the so-called anti-ISIL coalition that's operating in Syria. What do you have to say about this reason that's been put forth?
Well, I mean, a confrontation with ISIL or ISIS is exactly what's needed, surely. I mean, this group, this organisation, is causing absolute havoc. I interviewed recently the Russian investigative journalist and filmmaker Andrei Vilcek on this subject, and he pointed out but when he was in Iraq, he could see that the US Air Force was not actually attacking ISIS. What it was doing is it was bombing Iraqi villages, destroying Iraqi infrastructure, the US Air Force was. Think places like universities in Erbil, for example, and actually effectively providing air support. There are even rumours, quite strong rumours, with some evidence that the US Air Force has actually been dropping supplies to ISIS. So I think this is exactly what's needed, is some kind of intervention of some kind to actually persuade the Americans to take this fight seriously. For the moment, we have to rely on to know what the Americans and the British generally are doing out in Iraq and Syria with ISIS, is the media coverage. And of course, the West's media coverage has been almost entirely the kind of reports from our own military and from embedded journalists. And of course, those embedded journalists within the military also take the military line. There's almost no journalists around, Andre was one of them, who are actually what they call unembedded. So they can actually report critically on the battle. There's very, very few of them. And the reason why is because of what happened to reporters like Terry Lloyd from ITN here in London when he went out in 2003 to report on the Iraq war. Just after just a few days, he was killed by so-called friendly fire from our own side. So So that's why people, journalists, are really rather worried to go out there to report independently, is because they often get killed. So we in the West, we really get just a military line, and this intervention, beginning of an intervention by the Russians, is actually going to force the military to admit, I think, that it isn't serious about fighting ISIS. So if they are serious, they'll join with the Russians, and I think ISIS will be finished within weeks.
Investigative journalist Tony Gosling joining us from Bristol. Thank you very much, sir.